Hi there everybody, this is Shane R. Monroe, and we're going to be taking a look at a video editing tool known as Filmora from Wondershare. And Filmora is I would say a consumer level video editing package. It falls into those sub 100 video packages like Corel Video Studio and a multitude of other ones. But I've been using a lot of Wondershare's products lately. Their video converter and their All My Tube and their streaming audio recorder, and so I decided to give this a look-see because, quite frankly, some of the tools that I use, I've always been a big fan of Corel Video Studio. In fact, I spent a month-long project creating the Holding Out for a Witcher music video set to Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero. And it took me a long time, and I got really, really comfortable with the product, and I thought I knew all the ins and outs of it. But I wanted to try something else that sort of did more end user YouTube sharing type stuff, of which Corel Video Studio may not necessarily be the best tool. So I decided to go ahead and take a look at this, and I want to share the things that I found with you. Upon launching Filmora, by the way, this does have a free trial. You can use it. All it does is watermark the video. And the price is very, very reasonable, anywhere from $39.95 to $69.95 per year. So there's a yearly fee. There's a yearly version, a subscription fee where you get a lot of effects libraries and other things. I'll take you around that in just a minute. But let's get into it. So the very first thing that you see when you launch Filmora here is a very simple, quick and easy to use interface. You can start off by setting your screen ratio, including oddball screen ratios like portrait or an Instagram type style. It's kind of neat to just have those options right away. There's a full featured mode, which we're going to get to in just a minute, but they also have a couple of interesting little quick and dirty tools. If you're just looking to do something short and sweet, you may not need to go into a full-blown video editor. You might just need to put together a quick little presentation or do some cutting of video, snap some items out. You had to pause the game in the middle of recording and you just want to clip that pause out. Maybe you just want to do some quick cam type tools. So that's the basic stuff. That's the real easy, quick and dirty modes. Let's go into the full featured mode because that's really what you're here to see. And this looks a lot like millions of other video tools out there. I'm going to open up my workspace a little bit here to take advantage of the resolution. You got your different types of tracks. You've got all sorts of very simple access to some very common things. So let's go ahead and import some media here. I'm just going to grab all these files that I have in my sample location and bring them in here so I can play with them. And these are all real videos. These are all things that I've captured that I've had to do something to, or I've wanted to do something to, except for this one. Let me bring this audio down so whatever happens doesn't blare you guys out. So for example, all right, well let's just throw something down here, right? So it's as simple as grabbing your video, throwing it onto the timeline, and then you can easily open your timeline up. This is one of the things I think is a little bit harder to do in some other tools. Open your timeline up, and then you can jump to your timeline. This is actually from the Night Trap video game on Switch. So this is just a basic video. We can play this back, and you can kind of see what it looks like. And one of the things that it said that you might have missed down here was their pre-rendering timeline. So you could actually zoom up your timeline considerably, so you're only looking at a very small piece of the pie. Right, so you can render the whole timeline, or you can get really, really specific, right? So let's just move our timeline up. So what you're seeing here is just a handful of seconds, as you can see. So if I go ahead and produce something to this, and I want to just do a quick render to see what it looks like when it's all smooth, a lot of the tools out there won't do a quick preview render for you, but you're going to see some of that as we go. Obviously, to do very simple things like cuts, there's some built-in stuff right here. In some tools, you'd right-click and hit cut or whatever, and you can still do that. You can still say split, or you can use some of the handy tools that are built in. I know it says debris infinity. I'm terrible at naming my files. And with this, you could simply, you could actually move this down to another timeline. So I could add another, um, I can add another track for text or music, how many of those tracks that I want to have. Um, you can reorder this, right? So I can go in here, I can trim this thing up if I want to, make another cut, grab this piece, move it over here. You know, standard, typical video editing type nonsense, right? Simple stuff. And of course, the first thing that you might be interested in doing is coming up with some sort of a transition, right? That's a real common thing that we'll do. So let's go to the transition menu. As you can see, there is a buttload of transitions here, and they all have some sort of a preview so that you can see exactly what they look like. Oops, except for I accidentally applied it. If you hit the plus, it applies it for you. So let me just go over here. You can see some pretty cool stuff is in here. I mean, this is like old video toaster days. And you've probably seen some of these on various YouTube videos. Right? So little Star Wars cutscene stuff, swirls. Sure, sure. So we can take that guy and drag it in here and apply it across these two frames or these two video clips. And we can jump over here and we'll just roll it back a little bit and take a look. Right? Pretty cool. Now, if you were doing something a little heavier, I'm trying to think of one that would be a little heavier. Anything that does a series of serious dissolve type work, that might actually end up being a little choppy if we put it down here, especially if you have a lower end computer you're working with, or you're working with higher resolution video. All right, so that was pretty smooth, so I don't need to pre-render that to get a good idea. But if you look over here, you'll see a whole list of various effects. These I have currently selected to all, but if you just wanted to see warp types, right, or zoom type effects, right, so these are all in here. You wanted ripple type effects or dissolves, right, mosaics, evaporate. See, that's pretty cool. So you have a whole bunch of these sort of effects that you have access to. And of course, you can actually go in and do some editing here. You can say how long you want the duration to be, and you know, how do you want the transition mode to be? A pure overlap, or a prefix, or a postfix? A couple of other different things. As you can see, I accidentally put this other dissolved over here. Right, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, so you've got your standard transitions that are here, and of course you can always just remove them. No penalty, no harm, no foul. And of course you can go back to this is sort of your media center item. So then you can, of course, add some music, right? So there's a handful of music that comes with it, some royalty-free stuff. You can simply drag this down, plop it in there, and you're ready to roll. No pre-rendering necessary. I don't know, it makes Night Trap better if you ask me. So you can, you know, quickly throw in some audio there, and of course you have tons of different audio-related settings and tools that you can use to play with and customize and equalize and remove background noise and pretty much all sorts of great stuff. So you have quite a bit of usefulness there. So text and credits, right? So this is a very common thing. You're throwing together a video. You want to do a little what they call a lower third, right? These lower thirds are little popovers, right, that tell you about the video or the people who make it. Now you'll notice that you have to download some of these. Little arrow means you have to download them before you can play them. But these are free, right? And they have a whole bunch of these. I mean, these lower thirds are really cool. Having to make these yourself is a real pain in the butt. So it's really nice that there's a good handful of these things available to you. And that's super easy, right? I mean, how simple is that? Just throw this down in here and you're good to go. Pretty neat, right? But then, of course, you have other things like straight up titles. Again, it's going to have to download some of these. Right? So all of this sort of titling, this sort of thing is all, like I said, built in sort of for free with the application. Some of these are pretty cool. Some are pretty distinctive. And you can tell some of them are actually a lot bigger by how long they take to download. There's also like opening clips, right? These are very common. You see these all the time as well. These are openers to your videos. They're not overlays. They're not lower thirds. They are intros, right? You probably have seen that one. I've actually seen this exact one on a YouTube video. So there you go. There's seasonal stuff, right? So a lot of times they'll offer seasonal packs. This is sort of how they try to monetize the thing. A lot of times they'll give it away for free. You get some spring and summer packs or whatever. So it's kind of fun. I mean, there's a lot of things that, you'd have to do these on your own. Subtitles. This is kind of fun, right? Being able to add quick and easy subtitles. Sometimes it's a scroll and crawl, but a lot of these should look familiar to you. End credits. This is really neat right here. Being able to just throw some quick ending credits on there, right? And all sorts of different formats. Even scrolling ones like that. It's really neat stuff, right? So you can add all of that stuff. And of course you can tag things as favorites as well. So if you know that you're going to use something over and over again, it'll show up as a little heart and you'll be able to get to it quick and easy. Let's see, a lot of people like this sort of thing, so I kind of dwell in here. I like that one. That's kind of fun. Just neat little stuff to spice up your videos. And we already talked about transitions. So again, there's a multitude of those, again, including some seasonal stuff. So let me remove this lower third. And let's move on to filters. So filters are something that everybody likes to play with, so it's definitely worth us jumping in here and taking a look. Some very common filters, some very common shaking type filters, up and down shaking, chaos shakes. So if you're ever looking to make that Starship Enterprise getting hit by a photon torpedo in your video, you can do that pretty easy. Some faux film type things where you can add some colorization. You can put some very, some various filters of colors and all sorts of things. Again, these were all, you can do this with pretty much any program, any video editing program, but it's really nice to be able to have access to these quick and easy. Now some of this is pretty cool. These are ones that do things to the outer borders. It doesn't show up really in the previews, but you may have seen this, and we're going to play with this one more in a little bit. So again, it's some variations. There's some black and white ones, right? So you can add a black and white feel to it. Sepia tone, of course, the favorites. Some standard items here like flipping and mirror. This actually works a lot more fun when you can see stuff in motion here. Let me move my timeline out to some actual motion. I see. So you can piss her off. You can do some enlarging, some fisheye effects, right? Water surfer, water shuffling. I like that one. That's one of my favorites. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do. I love that one. That looks good. It's like it's fading out to VHS tape. So these are all sort of like real-time deals, right? You can apply some textures, apply color sketching, emboss, all the stuff that, we used to take for granted. I like some of these framing ones too. And of course the old famous Instagram type filters and some more common ones. This is an old video clip, obviously, so not quite as much fun with some of these effects because the quality's low. But as you can see, there's a lot to do. Then you've got some overlays, which are also kind of cool. These are effects or filters that sort of sit on top of your video. So as you can see, I mean, some of these are pretty cool. They actually move. They're not just, overlaid frames. Of course, the famous dirty film. I thought I had that one downloaded already. Um, Vertical film reels. Oh, I have extremely dirty film. Right, so you can see all of this film noise that that it's adding to it. You can add grain, right? You probably won't see much grain here because it's already pretty grainy. Um, but you can add grain effects to it, all sorts of stuff. You know, here's a flood damage film. I haven't seen this one yet. It's a big one too. But again, you know, these are all, you know, lens flares and blurs and light leaks. So these are all, I don't have any of these already. Light leak one. All right, so you can see what's kind of going on over here, right? Sort of looks like film light leak. All sorts of fun stuff in there. So you can do all of that, again, right out of the box without a whole lot of help from others. So here are elements. So these are interesting. These allow you to sort of overlay elements of animated sort of elements on top of your video, right? So you can bring this down here. Yeah, we love her. So let's throw something over here.
And the only word you can say to the manufacturers,
peace and love, right?
shareholders of the company.
Right, so we can just open this up a little bit, make this duration a little longer. Oops, gotta just get it just right. My thing's in the way. That's weird. Must be some limit to the duration on that element. Anyway, so you have elements, and of course there's tons of those, right? So you can bring these down. All things for dressing up the final product, right?
The only word you can say to the manufacturers,
Fun,
and
right?
the shareholders of the company is shame on you.
And again, there's tons of different ones. Badges, right? These are fun. Have some badges, pets, right? Some basic overlays, some vector style pet overlays, some hand-drawn stuff, right? That look like sketches. Those are often very popular. Usually to put some sort of a quote over somebody's head or to scribble it in. Pretty neat. So you have all of those available to you. And again, those are all pretty straightforward, easy, drag and drop them, manipulate them, change their time frames or whatever. So you have that available to you as well. Now, split screen is something that's very, very cool. This is something you see all the time. I'm going to go ahead and just nuke this video out of here. I'm going to go to something else. I'll go back to my media. And let's see, I'll grab my shovel clunk video. It's short. This is me playing Call of Duty World War II and getting a couple of very nice lucky hits with a shovel. That's why it's called shovel clunk. And that's longer than I remember it. Anyway, so I know they're coming, so I'm going to flip to a shovel and I'm gonna screw them up big time just as they come in. Bonk, there's one, and they just keep coming. Bonk, there's another one, and you know, then we wait for another one to come up. Bonk him too. It's it's fantastic. It was a ton of fun. How great is that, right? So you know, you might want to do some playing around with this. With split screen, I mean, you saw sort of a taste of that. You can actually create a split screen scenario. Now, you may have seen this sort of thing done in demo videos. So what we do here is we have two different zones. So we're gonna do a comparison, right? So we're gonna do Overwatch versus World War II, right? In this case, maybe we want to have the Xbox version and the PC version over here, or something like that, right? So you can have that done automatically for you for some comparison's sake. So how fun is that, right? And there's tons of different split screen scenarios that you can use. Right? There's sort of the 4 slots, right? You know, PC, Xbox, PlayStation 4, Switch. You get the idea. And so that's all sort of, you know, built in and free here, if you will. Right, so we're going to grab this, bring it down here. right, to the timeline. So now it just basically inserts it, and now I can take Night Trap up here and Brundlefly's highlights there, Shovel Clunk over here, and I don't know, my What's in Shane's Shed video, and we'll throw it over here, right? That's fun. So you can do all sorts of fun stuff like that. So that's actually oftentimes a huge pain in the butt to be able to do that manually. But you can do that very quickly and easily here. All right, so let me get rid of all these clips I've thrown together here. Go back to my media, and I'm going to grab my Shovel Clunk as a good example. Somehow I got rid of that. So I'm going to bring this down so I have a more timeline here to see. So one thing that a lot of times you want to do is you want to stop the video for just a moment and do some sort of a quick talk over, right? You know, I'm doing strategies, and I'm about to tell you that I'm going to go ahead and change into my shovel here. Right? So now what I really want to do is I just want to add like a freeze frame to that. I just want to freeze it for a certain amount of time so that I can do a talk over. I can do a voiceover work, right? So normally you'd have to take a screenshot and insert the screenshot and make the screenshot run for like 5 minutes or whatever your talk over time is. But that's how easy this is to just a couple of clicks and halt. Now we're getting ready to bonk these guys on the head. Let's see how I do it. You know, that sort of thing. You get the idea. Right? And then I want to freeze that one. I want to put a freeze frame in there. All right, so let's go back. Now, folks, watch as I crack these guys on the noodle. I do a lot of them, so stick around. And here he comes. Now, I know what you're thinking. I could just let this guy go, but you know what? Screw him. He's getting clunked on the head. Bonk, right? So you get the idea. See what you can do with that, right? How fun is that? I mean, it's so simple and easy to do. And then, of course, you can do, you can record voiceovers over top of it. You can do some photo placement changes and zooming and cropping and all of the sort of things you might want to do. Who knows? Maybe what you really want to do is throw a title on top of that, right? So we can just check that title in here. I guess I should have grabbed one that I already had, but that's okay. Yeah, pick a shorter one next time. All right, so now I can not only do my voiceover change up, but I can add some sort of a top over. Now I could let this guy go. Oh, get ready to bonk. Bonk. Right, so you get the idea. How much fun is this, right? You could spend all day just sitting around annotating your videos and doing stuff like that. And of course, you can double up and throw a transition on it, right? So you can throw a transition in across your freeze frame. Why not? Here we go. Now, I'm going to bonk this guy on the head. Right, whatever. Oops, I had to stop that. All right, so you get the idea, right? I mean, there's a ton of tools you can use in here. There's tons of things for you to do. It's just a plethora of basic utilities, but it's all pretty well put together, and it makes sense, and it all lays out the way you would hope it would. You can have multiple text tracks, multiple music tracks. I do believe, I haven't done this yet, but let's try it out together. I do believe that I can do a second video track, right? And then I can then take that and do a picture-in-a-picture mode type scenario. Boop. Right? In fact, you saw me doing this at the beginning when I put my Holding Out for a Witcher video on here, right? Then I'll mute that because I don't really want to hear it. I just want it playing over there. Coming up next, we're going to see Night Trap on Nintendo Switch, so you make sure you stick around, right? So we'll go in here, right? We'll cut this off. We don't need that. Let's split that. Let's get rid of the rest of this thing, right? So this will be one of those coming up next things, right? So then we can take that. We'll throw a little text on top of it. Maybe we'll do a, I don't know. Let's see, maybe we can do a lower third on top of that. Is there one that's on the other side? No. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take this guy, we'll move him over here, then we'll add, let's see, what's this transition? Okay, cool. We'll add this down here, right? So just jump in here. Oh, sorry. Different tool. It's weird. You should be able to edit it here. How strange. All right. Easy peasy. And let's see how that looks now. Yeah, something like that. You get the idea. Sky's the limit with what you can do with this thing. So that's fun, right? And again, you have access to doing all this stuff. It's all pretty simple. We didn't even have to dig into any scary menus, no scary flyouts. Everything was just was relatively easily done. They have some interesting things like zoom to fit your timeline, which is nice. Some tools just let you double click or right click and reset timeline. But I thought that was pretty easy. You can do some scaling of your timeline. You can actually change from timeline to sort of a different, what do they call it officially? Storyline mode, storybox mode, whatever. All right, so all is fun, right? We've done all this fun stuff, and we've got our little titles and all this nonsense. So now, one of the things that's really cool about this, we're actually going to go in, this is the first time we've been into a drop-down. Have you noticed that? We're going to go into settings, and we're going to make sure that if we've got one of these supported hardware types, we're going to enable GPU acceleration. Of course, you can set up where you want your temporary folders at, deleting your previews when you're done, checking for updates, blah, 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 all that sort of thing. But you really want to make sure this GPU acceleration's on. It'll definitely speed things up and keep things running a little more smoothly. All right, so you've done all the work. You've done your clips, your cuts, your voiceovers, your additions, your picture-in-a-picture. You've done it all. So now you need to get it somewhere, right? So now you're ready to actually export. Again, notice we could go up to this menu item, but it's right here, front and center. Now, of course, you have full-blown access to whatever format you might want. Even some really cool ones like WebM and like MPEG-2, which a lot of people don't even remember MPEG-2, even GIF. But for example, let's say you're going to do MP4, which is really, really popular. You can go into your settings and you can change a good amount of stuff. You've got some basic presets, but you can jump in here and immediately set your bit rate to something a little higher. Of course, you can do some upscaling or some downscaling as you like. Set some of your audio functionality. That'll vary from format to format, of course. And then you're ready to go. Just hit export and off it goes. So let's take a quick look here. So what it's going to do now is it's going to go ahead and do its deed, and you'll see it sitting here pre-rendering for you, and you can watch the progress. You can have it do a sound reminder or even shut down your computer afterwards if you think it's going to be a long rendering time. And of course you have pause in case it's chewing through too many CPU cycles. Right, as you can see, it's rendering our night trap and everything on top of it. So you get the idea. Again, one thing that I would have to say is I'd like to have a basic timeline idea. Is this 20 minutes? Is this 30 minutes? Is this a minute? You don't really know. You just have to kind of watch and guess. And I understand that, you know, it depends on how much is being rendered and how much processing time is being done. So instead of just giving you a baseline guess, they're not going to tell you anything. They're just going to give you a progress bar. I kind of prefer to at least have some sort of a basic idea. Let's just cancel that. So these are your basic all-around formats. Then you can actually go in here and say, I want to target something in particular, generic Android, right? I want to target a Wii, that's crazy, Xbox One, right? An iPhone, some other basic things, right? And again, you can jump into settings and still do your sorts of things. But it's just a quick and easy way to get yourself some exports. Now, here's the stuff, of course, that everybody's really going to be interested in, and this is social media sharing. YouTube, right? Very, very popular. This is probably where half of you are going to end up putting your videos. You don't have to leave the interface to do this. You sign in with your YouTube account, which I've already done. You set up some basic parameters, set up your tags. The tag editor is kind of cheeseball, right? In a lot of them, you type in test and then hit space or hit shift space, and it would like sort of show these as a tag format, but it doesn't do that. Which I think, so the tag editor is a little on the weak side, but you can select some basic categories. But then you can just send it right on up there and go ahead and export it, and then it'll convert it and then upload it for you all in one shot. It's a lot easier than using other tools. Um, Vimeo is also supported, which I have not signed in. And then, of course, you can actually export to DVD. So this is kind of nice. I mean, sometimes you need to just burn something for grandma, right? Grandma's got a DVD player, but she's not going to get on YouTube or anything else. You can quickly throw together and actually burn it, right? So you can actually burn this sucker right on out to a disc all in one pass. That's kind of cool. I mean, who writes the DVDs anymore, right? But if you really want a universal format that you can send to anyone anywhere, and you need them to see the video, that's pretty cool. So that's the export features. Now, I did promise to show you around some of the secondary monetization, right? So up here, you'll see that you have a couple of other items. Now, you can change to a light skin. I thought this was kind of interesting. Personally, it makes my eyes bleed. I'm a dark skin kind of guy. There's a message center that you can actually go through, and there's some tutorial videos for you. Obviously similar to what I'm doing. A 60-second learning how to use it, blah, blah, blah. And of course, there's tons of people making videos that can help you out. But here's the More Effects scenario here. More Effects is an effects store, right? And so this is how they sort of secondary monetize the product. There's always some sort of deal going on, get 2 splash elements for free anytime you purchase anything, buy a year subscription, and you'll get 6 months for free. And then there's always some sort of free packs going on, right? So I've downloaded some of these already. And there's more free stuff, right? So what else can you get? There's a handful of confetti pack, right? There's not a ton for free in there. But if you're looking for something specific, you may be able to find what you're looking for here. And again, if we do a buy now, let me see what we get. I don't remember if this will actually open in this window or what. But everything, so one of the things that people ask about too with these sorts of things are, how is this thing licensed? Is this going to put some sort of a licensing application on my system like Corel does? Or Adobe's got their license manager running. This all ties into to your Wondershare account, right? So I've got a lifetime plan. It understands who I am. I kind of like that. I just want to sign in and use the thing. I don't want to have to go retrieve some serial number, whatever. But there is, for those of you who are wondering, oh, but what if I have no internet? That does support an offline activation, and they do send you a code. So that's how that works. But again, if you look up in here in these menus, there's not a whole lot going on up in these menus. They try to abstract everything out of the menus and put everything sort of within reach of you here. Here's some of these other items here, which is taking a snapshot of what you're watching, recording a voiceover, actually going to a full screen view, right? So you can actually see it. Now, one thing that I don't believe this one does that I did like about some of the other tools that I've used is you can pop this out. You could pop that video out and put it on a second monitor, for example. But I do not believe this has a pop out. I'd have to go looking around. I have not seen it. But it may be possible to do that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else you really need to see. I mean, that's really the nuts and bolts of the thing. Again, you can show and hide tracks. You can do all sorts of other interesting stuff. There's a power tool within a clip, right? So you can actually do some mosaics and some other sorts of nonsense. So if you want to hide somebody's face or do something like that, there's a couple of clips that are, some tools that are built in. I haven't used them a whole lot, so I hesitate to talk about them too much. But right click around a little bit, take a look at some of these, crop and zoom, right? That's something that's people end up using a lot, right? So maybe you've got some undesirable stuff on the outside of the content. What you really want to do is I want my video to really just be that. I don't want the extra stuff. I don't want my HUD information or whatever. So you can make that change as well, right? So then you just have that. Right? So that's pretty straightforward and simple. What are some of these other ones? The freeze frame, which we already talked about, power tool, color tuning, you know, all the sorts of things that you would like to see. Um, Editing, right? So they got, we saw some of this stuff earlier. You can do some auto enhancing and things of that nature. Um, Play the clip in reverse, right? So there's a couple of things that I did want to show you. Let's go ahead and we're going to get rid of all this nonsense. Um, let's go back to our media. Here's a good example. This is a clip that was shot by a cell phone, but the orientation was wrong, right? Um, that's a pain in the butt to actually like fix that, right? Um, uh, I'm sure a lot of people have come up with that. In some cases, you can just simply go in with some sort of a tag editor and say, hey, I need this to be rotated in landscape. And anytime you play that video back, it'll play back in proper landscape mode, right? Um, but I do believe it's as simple as going up here and hitting rotate. And wow, look at that. My video is fixed. That's, I got to tell you, I actually did something like this manually, and it wasn't very pleasant in other tools, right? Um, You can do flipping, the same idea. Like I said, the rotating thing, and again, there's some auto enhance. These that actually look pretty good. See, it kind of brightened things up a little bit. You can change the playback speed, all sorts of things. Really, really simple, built in. And of course, there's even an advanced thing. If you really, really, really want to start getting down into the deep and the histograms and everything else, you can do that as well. And you'll notice though that it keeps that sort of thing abstracted from the end user. So you can go in and do these sorts of things and make these sorts of changes and corrections really, really simple. Let's see. I haven't done this one previously, so we're just going to kind of. Here's a good example too of a zoom up, right? So this is a video that I shot with an old camera a long time ago, where I was sort of doing a show about my shed. And some of the fun stuff that I got in here. So this is a perfect example of wanting to take in here and take this sort of matted video. I think this was converted from something else. I don't remember. But it's very nice and easy to just take that and crop it up. Kind of fun, right? Let's see here. So let's take this video off. Nobody likes to look at my old self anyway. So let's see here. There's one thing I did want to try, and I figured I'd do it while I was here. Not transitions, probably filters. Where's that blur thing? Let's go back to media here. So in this video, my son was having his arm reset, so they put him in a twilight state. But when you watch these, this is one of those portrait videos. So we should technically be able to, and again, I haven't done this yet, so I've got to kind of dig around for it. Where is that? No. Background blur. Okay. Right? So this is a real prime example of something that you see on TV, right? How they take the video itself and they cover the empty spots with something. Usually it's some sort of basic blur or mosaic type thing, right? So you have a couple of different options here if you want to kind of hide that aspect of things. Right, that's a real popular one that you see on the news and stuff all the time. They take some basic colors and whatnot, and they apply it around the video like that. So, yeah, poor little guy. So yeah, these are all real common, easy to use sorts of features. You'd be surprised at how quick you can jump in and use these things right away, and how it can kind of help your workflow go a little quicker. Especially if you're doing social media type videos or you're doing stuff for YouTube, this sort of tool can be great. So again, what we're talking about here is Filmora from Wondershare. This clocks in about $40, $40 to $70, depending on what sort of license you want. whether you want a yearly license or a lifetime license, etc. The product seems really stable. I haven't had any crashes or problems. A couple of other things that's really neat that I like to bring up is you can actually record from a PC screen, right? So you can do like a screen capture facility. So if you needed to record a piece of a screen, obviously I'm not using it for this video, but if you need to do a quick screen recorder or screen capture, you can do that within the application. You don't need Snagit or Camtasia or one of those other tools in order to get that sort of thing. It's built right into the application, and it's pretty stable and robust, and it does what it needs to do. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to turn right around and save this video and bring it right back in here and do some titling and some other stuff. And I'm going to zip her on up and send her to YouTube right from within the application. So I'm eating my own dog food, as they say in the IT business. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, like the video, share it with your friends, and let us know in the comments. What do you think? Do you use Filmora? Are you interested in using Filmora now that you've seen some of the features? We'd like to hear from you. So let's get those comments going. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is Shane R. Monroe. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.